Environmental activists in Durban South Basin want harsher sentences imposed on companies that are responsible for air pollution. They say that pollution tax has proven not to be a deterrent.
Asthma and cancer, common diseases in the Durban South Basin, which borders on a huge industrial area. Communities here say the air is polluted by toxic chemicals. Oil spills are a regular occurrence. Rivers are contaminated. Communities blame authorities for being lenient on the perpetrators.
The company is supposed to move out from here, not the people. Because if you're born and brought up here, you think you're going to leave your place and go? No ways. And I will tell you that I will never leave me and go, even if I have to die.
Activists want government to reintroduce stringent regulations. They say taxes and fines are not enough.
If you were to fine, example, 100,000 or 10,000, such a big corporation like this here that makes about 48 million profits a day, really, and you think that these industries will comply and listen and feel the pinch if you were to fine them 10,000 or 100,000 for their accidents? Really, you know, industries is like, to them, it's like our government is a joke.
Efforts to get reaction from government were fruitless. Vusi Khumalo, SABC News, Durban.
Well, a second autobiography on the life of Solomon Plaatje has been launched to coincide with his death on the 19th of June 1932. The autobiography, by a United Kingdom-based scholar, focuses on the personal and family life of Plaatje. Neria Tlakotsa reports.
Hailed as a pioneer in the preservation of African languages and one of the founders of the African National Congress, the legacy and life of Solomon Plaatje continues to live as it is retold, this time by a UK-based scholar in the form of a biography called A Life of Solomon Thekiso Plaatje, 1876 to 1932, the story behind the story.
What I've tried to do in this book is to tell the story of his more private life. I've been keen to find out what I can about his relations with his family, with his wife. In other words, to tell the whole story of Plaatje's life, not simply the political achievements that we're familiar with. I hope very much that with this book it's an opportunity for other people to share in some of the interests.
Sol Plaatje's family believe his biography will conserve his contributions to society as a whole.
I'm quite confident that it will preserve our grandfather's legacy and what he did for himself and his people for the next generations to come.
Plaatje is among the leaders that were against the proclamation of the 1913 Land Act. He believed it reduced a black person into a servitude and a nobody. Sol Plaatje died of pneumonia at Pimville in Soweto and was buried in Kimberley. Municipality buildings and the Sol Plaatje University stand tall as a commemoration of Sol Plaatje's contribution. Neria Tlakotsa, SABC News, Kimberley.
Well, sardine fever has hit the KwaZulu-Natal south coast. The KZN Sharks Board earlier confirmed that the first shoals of the annual sardine run would reach Durban beaches over the weekend. A large shoal have been spotted closer to shores between Park Rani and Ifafa from the air as they flew down the coast to monitor the sardine run. Smaller pockets were spotted between Ifafa and Margate. The shoals were accompanied by hundreds of sharks that fed on the sardines. Shark nets have now been taken out of the water from Isipingo south of Durban to Port Edward to prevent dolphins and sharks to get entangled in the nets as they hunt the sardines. Earlier we spoke to SABC News reporter Sponga Konkambata, who interviewed KZN Sharks Board CEO Mdokozizi Radebe about the sardine phenomenon.
Every once in a while God just blesses us with this abundance, which is free of charge to all the people really, and we are blessed to have it as the KwaZulu-Natal coastline. So it's actually one of the most decent ones in recent times. I think we haven't had a good sardine run over the last 10 years at least. And so we're very excited, and it coincides very nicely with the fact that the students and the kids are back at home, and the papas and the mamas and the grandpas are all around. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon, as you would see, and people are enjoying a swim, as you could see it in the background. And we are actually excited to be part of it, yes.
Would you understand, of course, that you have removed shark nets along the coast in these areas? Are you expecting any activity, and has there been any activity at all?
In fact, today specifically, Sibonga, if you go to Umzumbe, that's where most of the netting is happening. But the whole of South Coast in the major is actually full of sardine activity, which is why, as a precaution, we've taken out all the nets in the whole of the South Coast. So the only beaches that are open at the moment is where we're standing and to the far north of where we are, the new beach in Durban and the South Beach and the Durban Beach front. But for most beaches in the South Coast, we've had to take out the nets so that we allow the Sardine Festival to run quite smoothly.
But of course, this comes with the sharks, because we know that they do follow these sardines. Then what do we say to the beachgoers? Is it safe?
No, at the moment it's safe, as I say, from where we are standing to the north part of it. But in the South Coast, obviously, because whenever we take out the nets, we do it in conjunction, obviously, with the municipalities that are affected, also the lifeguards. At the moment, we are advising people not to swim in the South Coast because of the activities, and the fact that our nets obviously are out for the remainder of the sardine activity.
There have been a few nettings on the South Coast. They said this would be one of the best years. What could be the reason for that?
Well, look, by its very nature, this phenomenon is very unpredictable and sporadic, which is why I'm saying it's one of the most beautiful ones we've seen in a long while. Only God can answer that question. We are glad when it's happening, because then people get to make money. For instance, this morning in Umzumbe, I got a chance to go and see them there. The crate, there's anything between 300 and 600 a day. So depending on how much netting that has occurred. So we're excited about it, and as I say, people must just enjoy the manner of our times.
Yes, of course. We do understand that sardines usually come when temperatures are low.
Correct.
But it has been fairly quite warm for the past couple of months. What would be the explanation behind this happening?
Well, as I always say, KZN is always summer. Right in the middle of winter, we are always swimming. As you can see, people right now are swimming. Our water levels have dropped sufficiently enough to the temperatures to allow for the sardine activity to occur. But still people are enjoying it because it's not that cold, comparatively speaking.
And of course, lastly, you had mentioned earlier on that this is a time where schools have closed. There are a lot of more beach goers. We're also expecting holiday makers as schools are closed and a lot of students. Is it safe for them to be on our shores?
It is very safe where the safe gear remains in the water. For instance, where we are standing now and in the South Beach and in the new beach. And everything on the north of here, because we haven't taken out any nets this side. So everybody is welcome. So in other words, we simply put it this way. Those that are fortunate enough to be in the South Coast and are enjoying the sardines, please eat as much as you want. And those that are in the north and the sardines probably would still make it, but as I said earlier, they're very erratic and sporadic. You may not guarantee that they would come, but if they do come, we would always notify the members of the public timeously, and then they can also join in. Otherwise, you can take a short drive to Umzumbe and enjoy yourself that side.
Let's cross over live now to the ANC Limpopo Conference, the elective conference. Of course, those results were released this morning. Unopposed provincial chairperson Stan Matabata is currently on the podium.
Comrade President, to come and take the podium and address the comrades of Limpopo.
Amanda! Viva ANC, viva! Viva! Viva COSATU, viva! Viva! Viva SACP, viva! Viva! Viva SANCO, viva! Viva! Long live the spirit of Nelson Mandela, long live! Long live! Long live the spirit of Albertina Sisulu, long live! Long live! Amanda! Chairperson of our province, Comrade Chubu Matabata, the newly elected top 5 of the Limpopo Province, the Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Elias Makashule, Guess about the A's. Members of the NEC deployed in this province, led by Comrade Togot Diza, members who are ministers of government, members of the Provincial Executive Committee, leaders of our various leagues, the Veterans League, the Youth League, the Women's League, and also members of MKMVA, the leaders of our alliance partners, the SACP, COSATU, and SANCO, and members of regional executive committees and distinguished guests and all comrades. It's a real joy and a pleasure to be here, and I'd like you to receive the revolutionary greetings of our glorious movement, the ANC, which would already have been presented to you by the Secretary General. Let me take this opportunity, comrades, to congratulate the newly elected top 5 in this province as led by Comrade Tobu Matabata. Let's give them a round of applause once again. It will also be remiss of me not to commend the high levels of discipline and seriousness that you all as comrades displayed in the handling of this conference, despite those who wanted to derail this conference. The significance of a conference such as this one in the general life of our movement cannot be overemphasized. This conference comes, comrades, at a very critical time in the life of our movement, as a number of processes are underway, leading us to our appointment with the democratic process that our country has to have every 5 years. A conference, comrades, is not an end in itself, but a means to an end. It is not a destination, but a stop we take during our long, arduous journey to deliver radical economic transformation as set out by our 54th conference at Nasrec. At a provincial level, comrades, we make use of a gathering such as this one to take stock on the road we have traversed since the last conference. We take stock of the challenges that we have confronted along the way and how we fared in dealing with those challenges. And in instances where we have failed, as we sometimes fail as an organization which is a living organism, we also need to look at the lessons that we can draw from such experiences. A conference such as this one which brings together so many of you from various regions of our province, is an opportune moment for us as a movement to recommit ourselves to the timeless values of the African National Congress, as important values such as selflessness, humility, and service and sacrifice. ANC branches are the very pulse of our movement, and our conferences purposely reassert their centrality and authority as the basic units of our movement. This conference, I'm informed, and as I watched and looked, was characterized by very rigorous and robust debates aimed at how we can better equip the ANC in the Limpopo province and consequently also improve the manner in which it finally delivers service to our people. Debates such a nature are very critical, because as Amilcar Cabral once proclaimed, always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children. Close quote. That is what the people are fighting for. If you think that you've got some clever ideas in your head, as many people believe, if you think that you are cleverer than anyone else, the people are not interested in your cleverness. They are not interested how well you speak English. They are not interested in naka pronunciation ya maifi achikuwa. How bulela English batho bona ba shebile diketso tsa hao. Aba mamela hore sekgowa se tswang ko England se bolela bjang. Ba laba go twa gore wena o ile kwi ilesi le sisa isa go ditomi bya bona le mahlweni ai lesi singatala la hlokweni ya wena komishani ku tele mati la hlokweni ya wena. We are indeed encouraged, Comrade Secretary General was saying, which one of the languages that are spoken in Limpopo must he learn first? And I said, as we were walking down, I said, all of them. So Secretary General will be going to all the regions trying to learn all the languages that are spoken here. Nda sungula hi ku mu dyondza Xichangana ku ra kota ku xi vulavula kahle. Le sona Sepedi ke tla mo ruta sona. Le Silobedi ku ra kgona hore khilokele ka maobane. We indeed are encouraged that since our Nasrec conference, our people, comrades across the length and the breadth of our country have been invigorated and have expressed more confidence in your ANC and your organization's ability to continue transforming the quality of life of our people. This is what has happened since Nasrec. Our people have fallen in love once again with the African National Congress. We must therefore capitalize on that and grasp that and make sure, Hori, that love affair that our people have renewed with the African National Congress does not slip through our fingers. We must therefore continue working very hard to renew our people's hopes and aspirations for a better future under the leadership of the African National Congress. Your conference, therefore, comrades, is taking place during a year that we have declared as the year of unity, a year of renewal and jobs as we celebrate the centenary of Utata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela and Umama Albertina Nontsikelelo Sisulu. Our conference gave us a clear, as a leadership, it gave us a clear and revolutionary mandate to unite and to renew the organization and to reposition it to be the vehicle through which our people can achieve economic emancipation. That leadership is now working together for the unity of our movement. We are doing this precisely because of the understanding that a united ANC is a prerequisite for the renewal not only of our movement but of our country as a whole. As we are engaged in a process of unity, of unifying our movement, we must always remember that agreement is not necessarily a precondition for unity. In the notes that one of our leading comrades has written, Comrade David Masondo, who's now been given the responsibility of being in charge of our political education, who is sitting here in front of us. He demonstrates very beautifully and in an apt and succinct manner. He says, homogeneity is not the same as unity. Differences bring different strengths amongst people pursuing the same goal. And he goes on to give a wonderful illustration. He says, a choir as a group of people who sing together can win competitions in concerts if it has different singers with different singing skills as well as capacities. Singers with soprano, with tenor and baritone voices, but with the same goal. Organization is about the ability to harness the capacities and capabilities of different social forces and individual members of the organization to reach some common goals, close quotes. He uses the analogy of a choir. Choir ikasi winning competition. Ha kamukana rena re opela soprano. Choir I win the competition when we sing different tunes, soprano, baritone, alto, and so forth. Uchanale nahane ki opela mo choiring ya koskolong liko kereke. So the organization is similar because we can't all sing in exactly the same tone. We need different tones. We need different perspectives. The leadership lesson of Madiba are also important here. Madiba was able to harness the different perspectives of the leaders he worked with great skill and capability. Those who held different views, even from Madiba himself, were not routed out of the organization, but he brought them closer to himself not for the purpose of converting them, but with a view of benefiting from the different views and perspectives. It is, comrades, for these reasons that I have been advocating the concept of a principled unity approach, which is rooted in the values of our movement, but focused on improving the lives of our people. It is for this reason that I've said, where there are different perspectives and different approaches, and hear me clearly, not different factions, that a winner-takes-all type of approach to leadership of various structures of our movement is a recipe for disaster. Where we approach leadership contests, where we want one perspective to be the one that wins everything, means that we want a choir that sings with one tune only, a soprano or a baritone. The best way forward, as I've been saying, is that we need a mixed leadership, a leadership that has different perspectives, a leadership that has different approaches, a leadership that has different voices to be brought together to enrich the processes of the African National Congress so that we can move forward with real unity and renewal. That is the only way to get unity in the ANC. There are some amongst us who advocate for the victory of one perspective only. Nasrek, if I remind you, comrades, gave us clear instructions, and it puts together an architecture of a mixed leadership, a leadership that has different perspectives. And it is this leadership that is finding its way around unity. We are becoming more and more united, and through unity, we are then renewing our organization. That is the best way of forging ahead with a leadership that is united. Now, the leadership that you have now elected as your top 5, as I look through the looking glass, as I look at them, they don't look the same. Some are handsome, some are even more handsome. Some are beautiful, some are even more beautiful. Some have different perspectives, some have very different perspectives. And that is the architecture you've put in place. And I applaud you for that, comrades, that you've put together a top 5 leadership that mixes the leadership in the way that you have. And I'm saying to you, as you elect the additional members, just remember that what we are seeking to do is to unite the African National Congress. We are not seeking to get one perspective to emerge victorious over any other perspective. The only perspective that should emerge is the African National Congress. That is what we want in all this. So, comrades, as you move forward, let us move forward knowing that we want to choose a leadership that is going to take the ANC forward. But clearly all this is possible if all leaders are not driven by other interests other than serving the people of our country. If some of us are driven by other interests, such as self-advancement and the plundering of the resources of the people of our country, then unity in the ANC will always be sacrificed. So as we choose leaders, let us choose leaders that we know are going to put the interests of the people of this province ahead of themselves, rather than themselves as individuals. Amongst ourselves as ANC members, we have a common goal, comrades, which is to see the ANC succeed in its historic mission of pursuing its historic mission of the National Democratic Revolution, whose character, comrades, and content and direction will see the creation of a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous society. Emerging from this conference, we must desist from using our differences as a source of divisions, but rather as a means of strength that can unite all of us. The iconic words of Isitwalandwe, President Oliver Tambo, remain true and relevant even today. When he was delivering his political report to the 1991 48th ANC conference in Durban, he said, "We did not tear ourselves apart because of a lack of progress at times. We were always ready to accept our mistakes and to correct them. Above all, we succeeded to foster and defend the unity of the ANC and the unity of our people. Even in bleak moments, we were never in doubt regarding the winning of freedom. We have never been in doubt that the people's cause shall triumph." Close quotes. He said this because he firmly believed in the unity of the African National Congress, and he knew that it was only through unity that the ANC would be able to triumph. We are the first to acknowledge that our movement is currently weathering very strong winds. We are, however, encouraged to continue in our efforts to unite the ANC and to strengthen it simply because we know that a weak and divided ANC is a very handy tool in the hands of those who want to see the ANC lose. We must therefore not play to the gallery by giving our enemies the satisfaction of a weak ANC. I will also want to use the opportunity to how it has now become fashionable and how it has now become a newfound passion of people to take the ANC to court. In order to curb this new phenomenon, the ANC is now seized with the possible ways and means of how we can improve our own internal processes in a way that will make it impossible for manipulation of processes in the ANC aimed at achieving a predetermined electoral outcome. We need to do this if we want to curb this newfound sport and passion of people who always want to take the ANC to court. For instance, this conference could have been stopped if those who had wanted to take it to court had succeeded. And in the end, the court had good cause to say this conference must continue, and we are pleased that you are continuing with your conference. As we improve our own processes, which we are going to be doing, this will help turn the tide and stop giving the judges and magistrates the sacred right exclusively reserved for our members to determine the direction of our movement. We therefore encourage all ANC members to exhaust all internal processes available to them before resorting to the courts. And in fact, the 54th conference set up a most progressive structure, most effective structure, the National Dispute Resolution Committee, so that every dispute that anyone may have should be taken there. And with due diligence, with patience, we will be able to resolve every dispute as the African National Congress, so that we do not outsource our own internal processes to another entity outside of the African National Congress. So, comrades, I say, let us spend time and effort and energy resolving our own disputes within our own realms, within the African National Congress. All the difficulties, all the challenges, we've always been able to resolve them within the ANC. When we resort to courts, it basically means we are admitting that we are defeated. We have now run out of ideas ourselves. And we are saying, let us rely on our own internal processes. In the ANC, we should have this approach that there is no problem without a solution. We should always know that whatever problem there is, there will always be a solution. And in the ANC, there should never be a loser or a winner. As we emerge from this conference, we must rally our support behind those who will have been elected. The elected leadership also has a responsibility to unite with those who contested them in this conference. There must never be a sense that and we are now going to deal with you. Sometimes there are those who, after a conference, they have this approach for, yes, we have won. We are now going to deal with those who have lost. Comrades, that approach we must get rid of here in the ANC. We are one family. We are one family. Those who may have contested and did not succeed, they have a revolutionary responsibility to rally behind those who have succeeded. I was very heartened. I was most heartened after the elections when Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma came to me and said, Comrade Cyril, you have succeeded and I have not. I pledge my loyalty, my support to you as the President of the African National Congress. I was heartened by that. And today, Comrade Nkosazana and I are working so well together. We are like a machine, working together, discussing issues that concern our people. In fact, sometimes we surprise each other by the way we are just engaging each other on an ongoing basis. With love, with respect, with dignity, and with full support for each other, and with cooperation, working together in the presidency. Now, if we can do it at that high level of our organization, all of us must be able to work in that way. Comrades, the important thing is working for our people. If you are seeking to work for yourself, you will do things that will divide the African National Congress. And for those, we say, down with those who want to divide the ANC down. Down with those who want to divide the ANC down. Comrades, I'm spreading this message of unity throughout the organization because it is my responsibility as the President of the African National Congress to say we should be united in all the provinces of the African National Congress. Where we have challenges, we are saying to our comrades, let us sit down and talk. Nobody should ever be excluded from the ANC. That is why this concept here, a winner takes all, is wrong, and it is going to lead to disunity within the ranks of the ANC. We must embrace each other, and those who have not succeeded must pledge their loyalty and their support to those who have succeeded. The revolutionary euphoria, comrades, that we witnessed post our Nasrec conference signified that we have characterized this moment as what we call a new dawn for both our movement and our country. That conference gave us a clear mandate, as I was saying, to unite and to renew our movement, to be a fighting force that will be rooted within and amongst our people. It is for this reason that we have launched this Tuma Mina Send Me campaign. Through this campaign, we seek to ensure that ANC branches become the center of every community activity. Added to this, we will further be giving practical expression to what we imply when we say the ANC should be the leader of society. The success, comrades, of the Tuma Mina campaign lies with our branches. This is because it is our branches that are the first immediate point of contact with our people. So whatever opinions our people have about the ANC, be it positive or negative, it is our branches who are key in shaping such opinions. As we head back to our communities, we must do so with renewed determination to obliterate the trust deficit that developed over the many years between the ANC and the people. We must do the most important thing, which is to reconnect our communities with ANC branches. When our communities and our people are in need, their first port of call must be the African National Congress. When our people are suffering, when they are going through difficulties, their first port of call must be the African National Congress. The renewal and unity mandate is also about how we should go about uniting our alliance. The alliance had become weakened and divided leading up to the 54th ANC conference. We have been mandated to strengthen and to unite the alliance. The alliance must be a living organism of our revolution. As we strengthen the alliance, we should also focus on how we lead governance in our country, because in the end, comrades, we are a governing alliance. The alliance must therefore be so united that we continue consulting one another from national, provincial, regional, even at local level. We must work as a well-oiled machine, where one arm of the alliance is weak, the other arm must strengthen the alliance partner. We must walk in unison, never leaving any component of the alliance behind. We have been given the responsibility by millions of South Africans to govern the country as an alliance, which is led by the African National Congress. Yes, the SACP wants to see a reconfigured alliance. That is a matter that we are going to discuss at the political Council when all the alliance partners are together. And we will be approaching those discussions with the sole purpose of making sure that the alliance becomes a fighting alliance, that the alliance becomes strengthened, that the alliance becomes an alliance of equal partners as led unmistakably and undeniably by the African National Congress. That is the type of alliance, comrades, that we must build and strengthen. For us to do so means that we should, as we strengthen our governance processes, we should also focus on implementing the decisions that were taken at our 54th conference without fail. Our members, even at the conference, have all complained about that we do not implement the decisions that were taken at the conferences. Now, comrades, this has been a recurring complaint throughout our movement. And well, I can say that we are now going to change that. And we are going to make sure that the decisions that were taken at the 54th conference are going to be implemented. Whether we like it or not, they will be implemented. The decisions that were taken, comrades, are meant to advance the national democratic revolution, which in the end is aimed at improving the lives of our people. Our focus in the end, as we implement these resolutions, is to reduce unemployment, eradicate poverty and inequality in our country. We are going to speed up the job creation process, particularly amongst the youth, and it is for this reason that we have supported the launch of the Youth Employment Service. We want to open pathways for young people so that young people can see that there is hope for them in the future, as South Africa is a country that they are going to inherit. We are working hard to make sure that young people in our country have great opportunities. We want to assist them as much as we possibly can, and we are going to be looking for further ways through which we can do so. We want them to play out their innovative talent. We want them to continue to be the creative young people that they ought to be. And as part of that, comrades, we are going to also focus on the empowerment of women as a great priority, because women in our country continue to bear the burden of oppression, to bear the burden of poverty and being left behind. Our government is going to focus on how we can empower the women of our country going forward. But as we do that, we're also going to focus on another important aspect, which our conference focused on, of ridding our country of this whole practice and process of the abuse of women and children in our country. And we say we want the abuse of women and children to come to an end. The killing of women and the rape of women has to be brought to an end, and we want it to come to an end now and not tomorrow. And we call on our men in our country, to treat the women of our country with dignity, with respect, and with honor. And we say men must now stand up and say, yes, we are going to treat the women of our country as equals, as our sisters, as our mothers, as our aunts, and we are going to treat them with respect and honor. Down with the abuse of women, down. Down with the killing of women in our country, down. Comrades, as part of implementing the resolutions of our conference, We will be speeding up the land reform process as decided by our conference. The return of land to our people is paramount, as it will restore the assets that were taken from our people. The expropriation of land without compensation is one of the instruments we shall use to ensure that the aspiration that was articulated by our forebears in the Freedom Charter is fulfilled, that the land shall be shared amongst those who work it. We will also work to grow our economy by encouraging investors to invest in our economy. We have appointed investment envoys to go throughout our own country, through the African continent and the world, to go and raise 1.3 trillion rand in the next 5 years. We want a lot of that money to also come here in Limpopo to be invested in this very province. Anali ainyaka chelete una, renyaka oreja wanamo Limpopo. Comrades, it is important that we focus on sectors of our economy, sectors that we believe have growth potential. This is the economic trajectory that our government is going to focus on. As we go to our Lekgotla, as the ANC, and later as government, and I hope that it also helps to inform the Lekgotla that you will have here in this province, to focus on the growth potential of various sectors in our economy, so that we as government can show leadership and direct investments in those sectors. I believe that it is possible to grow our economy to also a level of 3% in this year, much as we saw a contraction of 2.2% in the last quarter. I believe that there's still great potential. Limpopo is well endowed with a lot of resources, both mineral, agricultural, and of course the biggest resource that we have is the people of Limpopo. And we want those people to be properly deployed, to be properly skilled, so that everyone in Limpopo can play a key role in the growth of the economy of Limpopo. I will be working very closely with Premier Matabata to see what nodes of the economy of Limpopo we can focus on, so that we can generate growth and get our people in employment. So you ain't seen nothing yet. You're still going to see great things that we want to do here in Limpopo. Limpopo ito hula. Limpopo the economy ya hii province ichia panda. Ilava economy yala Limpopo ikula swinene. Un'wana na un'wana loko a languta Limpopo a ku yo Limpopo in ntiyiso, it has become the bread basket of the whole Republic of South Africa. Comrades, the other important resolution that was taken by our conference, which we are advancing, which we have also advanced, and I raise this advisedly, because this is where Limpopo can play a key role. It is around education. We have implemented free education at institutions of higher learning to children of the poor and working class families. And we're doing it on a phased basis, and we believe that through doing this, we are fulfilling that aspiration that was set out in the Freedom Charter. When it comes to basic education, I believe that the 85% of the schools that are low-fee schools has actually contributed a lot to the universal education project that we had. But Limpopo still has a lot of work to do. Limpopo has been trailing behind when it comes to education. Limpopo has always performed well in a number of schools. Those schools must now be the standard that will be followed by other schools. Schools such as Kwiti, schools such as Lemana, schools such as are schools that set the national agenda or standard. Mbiri produces some of the outstanding mathematicians in the whole nation, and we want Limpopo to copy what is happening at Mbiri. Limpopo can rise to the occasion. There is no reason why education in Limpopo is trailing behind other provinces. Today, the Free State, you're not Free State area, is. Use the Free State as your standard. Use the Free State as your standard, and Limpopo must advance further in education. As a government, we are pouring a lot of resources in education, and we expect for Limpopo will live up to the good standard that has been set up by a number of schools. If we can do it, why can the other schools in this province not do it? All we have to do is to do it like Mbiri and produce the best mathematicians in our country. On health, comrades, Comrade Aaron Mutwaledi has presented to the nation the National Health Insurance Bill. He has also presented another bill on medical aids. This was a decision that was taken by the ANC conferences in the past. And we are saying the National Health Insurance is now here. And we are going to implement it whether people like it or not. If we feel the NHI. And comrades, we want all of us to rally behind the National Insurance Health. There are those who do not want national health insurance, and we are saying the way to present and deliver the best healthcare system in our country to all the people of our country is to have a national health insurance system. And now we are going to speed ahead to ensure that the people of our country have the best health that South Africa can give. And we are going to be able to deliver this through the NHI. In July, comrades, we will be hosting BRICS countries. Brazil, Russia, India, and China will be descending on our country. South Africa, as you all know, is part of BRICS, and together with these BRICS countries, we will also invite a number of other countries in our outreach process, countries from the rest of the continent and other countries from other continents. This will put our country on the world stage. And through BRICS, we've been able to raise the profile of what needs to be done in the developing economies of the world. BRICS is an important progressive structure to us as it makes us associate with countries that are pro-development, countries that have progressive policies. There will be important decisions that will be taken to advance the economies of these BRIC countries. Ahead of that, we will also be receiving one of the BRICS countries on a state visit. Along with our relations with BRICS countries, our foreign relations policies, comrades, is pivoted and based on advancing the interests of our own continent. The advancement of the interests of the people of our continent is underpinned by stability, human rights, and peace. It is in this regard, comrades, that we stand here and condemn the cowardly barbaric acts that took place in Bulawayo yesterday and Addis Ababa. The acts that took place when bombs were unleashed, one of the bombs almost killing President Emmerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, was detonated obviously to launch an assault against democracy in Zimbabwe. I spoke to President Mnangagwa earlier and passed on the good wishes of the government of the Republic of South Africa and the people of South Africa. And I assured him that as South Africans, we stand ready to defend the independence and the democratic processes in Zimbabwe. We will not let Zimbabwe fail because of these bomb blasts. We stand behind the people of Zimbabwe and we support President Mnangagwa in his efforts of stabilizing Zimbabwe. I will be speaking to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia later on today and pass on the good wishes of the people of South Africa and to say to him they should not be deterred by these barbaric and cowardly acts, because these acts are meant to sow mayhem and turmoil in those countries and launch an assault against democracy. Our focus on the continent is the development of our economies, as clearly demonstrated by the African Free Trade Agreement that was signed in Kigali, which we as a country are now going to sign next week in Mauritania. Through this, we will be joining a number of countries on our continent who want to see the integration of our continent, who want to see the progress of our continent, both economically and politically. And it is for this reason, comrades, that South Africa is firmly behind the progress of our continent, and our foreign policy is embedded and pivoted on the advancement of the African continent. And obviously, as we play it out throughout the globe, we seek to promote peace and stability and also support the multilateral system, the strengthening thereof throughout the world. Comrades, the next task that we are going to be facing as I go to conclusion as the African National Congress is to present to our people the progress that we have made, but also present a clear program of where we want to take the country. The African National Congress is the only organization that is able to take South Africa forward to address the challenges that we face. We have a focused leadership that is interested only in advancing the interests of our people. Tomorrow we are going to be holding a workshop on crafting the election manifesto of our movement. A number of you will be participating in the crafting of that manifesto. That manifesto is going to be the repository of the aspirations of our people, what our people want to see the ANC doing for them in the next 5 years. As we go towards the next administration, the 5th administration, we want to approach the next administration armed with the best policies, armed with the best manifesto that any political organization can ever have. And in fact, the ANC has always come up with the best manifesto. These other ones, first look at our own manifesto, Babaetsa copy and paste. Bauta mole, limole, bauta dintote ANC. But we are saying, we come up with the best manifesto because our manifesto is based on the aspirations of our people from ground level. Baba bang badinga mo internet, badinga mo Google, bailo level Google baba kata and ba paste. So Yaruna manifesto is organic, it's from amongst our people. So tomorrow, the Secretary General is going to be presenting the various aspects that will help put together the manifesto that we are now going to craft to put forward to the nation. That is the first stage, comrades. The next stage is going to be the election process. The election process, comrades, has started. I am pleased that this conference has been so successful, because out of this conference, you are now going to elect a leadership that is going to lead the process to elect the African National Congress into the next parliament and into the next legislature. That whole process has now started. We now need to put together our election machinery, all those structures that are going to lead our election process. The last election, comrades, was not the best for us here in Limpopo. You must remember, Limpopo always performs at a high level. Now all of us, therefore, will have a responsibility to lead the election process so that we win, and we win decisively in the next election. Because this is going to be the most hard-fought election. And that is why we were saying we cannot go to the next election divided. Because if we go to the next election divided, that is a recipe for a loss. Now the ANC cannot go to an election knowing that it's going to lose. We therefore must be united. So as we rise from this conference, comrades, we must all know that this conference now becomes the election vehicle of our next election process. The leadership that you are going to elect are the engine, and that engine must be so well chosen as to be able to lead us to the next election. Your task as members of the African National Congress and as leaders of the ANC is to make sure that the next task that we have, one, of setting up our election structures, and two, of going through the list process of identifying and choosing those who we believe will represent us well in our legislatures and in our parliament, are well chosen, and thereafter to be able to have a well-oiled machine that is going to make us win the next election. And your task as branches, as many of you here are representatives from branches, your task begins now. Let us work, comrades, for a united ANC, because it is only through this that we will be able to implement the radical socio-economic transformation that our people so want. It is through this that we will be able to improve service delivery. But it is also through this, comrades, that we will be able to strengthen our hand in government, because that is another important thing. both at municipal level, both at local level. We need to be strengthening our hand to make sure that the ANC indeed is seen as the servant of our people. So I conclude, comrades, by congratulating you for having held this peaceful conference, for having held a conference where there were no fist blows, for having held a conference where there were no walkouts, for having held a conference where there was peace and harmony. When I saw the Secretary General yesterday on TV saying to the whole nation, Limpopo is going through a most wonderful conference, a conference that is underpinned by peace and harmony, I was most impressed. That is when I knew, yes, I can come and address this conference and come and put forward the message of the National Executive Committee. And through this, comrades, I say, those who love their movement must now stand up and say, forward with the unity of the ANC, forward. Those who love their organization must now stand up and say, forward to unity and renewal, forward. No, you don't love the ANC. Those who love the ANC must now stand up and say, forward with unity, forward. Those who love their people must now stand up and say, forward with our glorious movement, forward. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Nelson Mandela, long live. Long live the spirit of Albertina Sisulu, long live. Mandla. Forward with unity in Limpopo, forward. Ndialuhu. While we are standing, comrades, while we are standing, you may well have done this, but I'd like us to observe a moment of silence. Moment of silence for two comrades who played a key role in our revolution, who have now departed. One of those is the beloved daughter of this province, a comrade that I loved dearly, a comrade who worked, in my case, at the University of the North when I was still a student, and with Comrade George Mashamba being a lecturer there, and Comrade Joyce Mashamba being a lecturer there as well. Let us dip our heads in remembrance of our beloved sister and our beloved comrade. The other comrade is Comrade Pili Mulise, who also passed away the other day, and it is a very sad moment because he was one of those stalwarts, great stalwarts of our movement, who dedicated his entire life to the organization that he so loved, the African National Congress. Let us observe a moment of silence for them. Thank you, comrades. Kyalebo.
Live proceedings straight